Hey, how you doing? It's Jeremy. Let's do an update. By the way, Classic Guitar Rock Radio 24/7. Okay, great guitar rock from the 60s, 70s and 80s, 24 hours a day. Check it out. Go to classicguitarrock.com. You can either click on the radio button, the CGR radio button, or the podcast button. Takes you to everything you need if you're a fan of the great guitar rock. News. Let's get to it. This is not happy news today. I'm just going to tell you, just let me give you a warning. Not any happy news. In fact, every single story is kind of negative, but you got to take the bad along with the good sometimes, right? It reminds me of that famous joke, right? The military joke where the soldiers all come into for lunch in the mess hall. And the cook says, I got good news and I got bad news. Well, what's the bad news? Well, the food tastes like crap today. Well, what's the good news? It's all you can eat. Okay, so there you go. That's kind of what the news is today. So we got that going for us. You can chime in live if you're on X, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, post your comments. And as always, email me, classicguitarrock@mail.com. Yes. Are we fans of the progressive rockers? Yes, I am. I'm a fan of all eras, right? The original 70s era, the 80s era, which really saved them, right? We could go on a whole nother tangent there. But I love that stuff too. I love it all. I love all the Yes stuff. Even the recent stuff without John Anderson, new singer. He's been in the band like 10 years now. John Davison, who's a great singer. Steve Howe's back in Yes. Howe might be the only original member in the current incarnation. I'm not sure. Anyways, what are we talking about with Yes? They're getting sued. Yes. That's redundant. Yes. Yes is getting sued. It's happening. So there's a prog rock artist who goes by the name of Riz Story. His real name is Rudolph Zahler, but he goes by the name Riz Story. Well, he's suing Steve Howe and John Davison. They've both been named in a lawsuit alleging they had conspired to steal a song from him. The papers filed in the Central District of California and reported by Rolling Stone claimed the song Dare to Know from the band's 2021 album, The Quest, is a ripoff of Reunion, a track recorded in 2012 by Riz. By the way, that album, The Quest, it's a great album. Yes continues to put out good albums. We never hear them, right? Because radio doesn't play them, but they put out great albums. Story said, Story is the guy who's suing them. He was in a band with Davison and Foo Fighter drummer Taylor Hawkins back in the 90s. He says that he and Davison continued to collaborate over the years. When the singer joined Yes in 2012, Story became involved with the band, assisting with Davison's audition, working on material, and being connected with the production role that eventually didn't happen. So he thought he might even be working with the Yes organization that apparently never happened. His song Reunion has only been released as part of a soundtrack to a 2012 movie, A Winter Rose. Davison, according to Story, was aware of the work and complimented him on it. So he liked this. He said, hey, I like that. I heard that in that soundtrack. Well, here's where it gets ugly. Okay. Story says, quote, Mr. Davison decided to just steal the song Reunion for the album rather than getting my permission. Noting that Davison and Howe decided to add lyrics to the music, affix the name Dare to Know to the song, and attribute sole songwriting credit to Steve Howe. So, according to Story, they basically stole the music and then just added lyrics to it. Remember the whole deal with Joe Satriani and what's their names? Was it Coldplay? They wound up settling out of court because basically the Coldplay song was the music that Satriani had written, and they just added lyrics. It's a similar type thing going on here. And I would bet that if there's merit to this, we'll see some type of out of court settlement to just make it all go away. That's probably what's going to happen. The Yes bandmates are also accused of having conspired to hide their copyright infringement by leaving Davison's name out of the credits. So they credit it just to Howe because that makes it look less obvious. If Davison, who apparently knew the song and they knew he knew it, if his name appeared in the credits, then that would be even more, look even more shady, right? So they just left his name off of it. An expert witness was reported to have determined that the two songs have a pitch similarity of 96%, which is extremely high. The fact that both songs feature such strong melodic and rhythmic similarities on top of also using the same distinctive harmonic sequence creates a very strong similarity that would be extremely unlikely to occur by chance alone, end quote. And of course, Story didn't want to do it. He did not want to sue them, but he says, quote, I was being kind of ironic there. He did not want to, because he, of course, would not want to win any money. It is with a heavy heart that Riz Story is forced to sue Stephen Howe, one of his childhood music idols, and John Davison, his lifelong friend, but they left him no other choice. Mr. Story trusts the legal system to deliver justice in these difficult circumstances. So yes, my prediction is there will be some sort of out-of-court settlement. 96% pitch similarity. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but there's a similar, anytime there's a lawsuit about someone stealing someone's song, they always have some expert come in. They analyze the melody. They analyze whether they're comparing music or lyrics or whatever. You know, they do that sort of thing. So stay tuned to see how this plays out. Carl, thank you for checking in. Carl's in Germany. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about my favorite guitarist who happens to be from Germany in just a sec, Carl. All right. In fact, we're going to talk about it right now. Michael Schenker. Have you guys followed this back and forth? It's been going on for years between Michael and Rudolph. Rudolph, of course, in the Scorpions. Michael started out in the Scorpions. And just let me say right now, for your great guitar listening pleasure, no one's better than Schenker. Seriously, he's my favorite guitarist, but also a little cuckoo. I mean, I got to be honest, a little cuckoo, but phenomenal guitar player. Still just an incredible guitar player, very underrated. In my mind, one of the greatest ever. Just such a talent. The feud between, this is from Ultimate Classic Rock. The feud between brothers Rudolph and Michael Schenker is ongoing, and it sounds like it will keep the latter musician from participating in the Scorpions 60th anniversary. So Scorpions 60th anniversary coming up. Of course, as all these bands do that have been around forever, you know, Judas Priest did their 50th. You know, all these bands will do these big anniversaries. Well, of course, Michael Schenker plays a pretty important role in the history of Scorpions. He played on the Lonesome Crow album. He's like 15, 16 years old. He was let's be honest, Rudolph, he's a rhythm guitar. Nothing against rhythm guitarists. He is nowhere near the guitarist Michael is. You know, when Michael left, they have to bring in other, you know, really good guitars because that's just not Rudolph. Rudolph plays rhythm. And then they'll have, you know, Matthias, who's a great guitar player. Uli John Roth before Matthias, another great guitar player that all come in to kind of play that role that Michael played. Michael came back for a while, did the Love Drive album, has done a few tours with them. So his history intertwined with Scorpions. It would be great if he could be part of this big 60th anniversary, but it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. When he was asked about it, this anniversary celebration, by the way, slated to happen in July in 2025 in Hanover, which is the hometown of Rudolph and Michael. But when asked if he was going to participate, he said, no, I just know that I have been a very big part of creating Rudolph as a musician. I don't think without me, he would have been there. And maybe the other way around the same way, saying he probably wouldn't be what he was without Rudolph either. He's acknowledging that. But the thing is that I have to protect myself from Rudolph. Every time he wants to do something with me, or every time they want to do something big and they need my name, he misuses me. And I'm very sad that he keeps doing that. He goes on. So let's, before I go on, one of the things that Michael will talk about, just a few examples. He accuses Rudolph of stealing his image, right? The black and white flying V. Well, you notice after Michael was using the black and white flying V, Rudolph starts using the black and white flying V. He just accuses his brother of copying him and all of that. Michael accuses his older brother of copying his sound and image. He says, Rudolph is 7 years older than me. He's a bully. He's telling this to Eddie Trunk here. He has been abusive to me for many, many years. He has distorted my image for many years, and he just pretends as if nothing ever happened. I guess because I asked other people, hey, how does your older brother treat you? And they say, oh, exactly the same. So I think it's just the thing they do. So he's just saying older brothers are jerks, apparently. My older brother's not a jerk. I don't think I'm a jerk to my younger brother. There's 3 of us. They think they own you. They can do with you whatever they want. I'm 7 years younger. That's just my little brother. Nobody, blah, 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 blah. I have no idea, he continues. He's a little upset here. I have no idea how these people, how their heads and their brains work. But the fact is, I helped the Scorpions. I jump-started them, and they forgot everything about it. And it's not that the Scorpions are the bad guys, or actually nobody is really the bad guy. It's just Rudolph is just a crazy, weird person. I don't know what drives him, but I don't want to be connected to it. So I don't want to be distracted with my vision every time I give in and say, okay, I'll do something with Rudolph. And then he abuses me or uses me disrespectfully. I don't know why he keeps going like that, but it's just kind of very, very strange. I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't know why it's so important for him to be bigger than his little brother. And of course, this has been going on forever. But I do have to say, again, I'm a Michael Schenker fan. I love him. But it seems to be you only hear it from Michael. Rudy is kind of like, I don't hear him going after Rudy the way Michael or I don't hear Rudy going after Mike the way Michael goes after Rudy. And in fact, at one point, I think Michael lived with Rudolph because Michael struggled with substance abuse and alcohol, and he had some rough times. And I think Rudolph kind of took him under his wing I don't know all the details, but I hope they can work something out, because for the fans, the people in Hanover, this is their hometown. It would be great if Michael could be part of that. Wouldn't that be great? I think it would be great. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that, and hopefully they'll, cooler heads will prevail. We'll see. Ronnie Dio This is posted in on Ultimate Classic Rock. Ronnie James Dio was in agony as a 2009 tour with the Black Sabbath offshoot band Heaven and Hell continued. He just couldn't figure out why. Well, we know he died of cancer in 2009. Or did he actually die in 2010? He died in 2010. So Heaven and Hell it's Black Sabbath, right? They did this off. I don't know why they did it, because they were Black Sabbath with Dio, but then they did an album and tour and called themselves Heaven and Hell, but it's all the same people. So wasn't sure what that was all about. But anyways, he was doing this tour. You can find footage of this Heaven and Hell tour, by the way. It's great footage on YouTube from 2009. It's good to check out because this is the last footage you'll ever really see of Dio. But during that tour, he just was not feeling good. He was in agony. Something's wrong. His wife, Wendy, and Dio had already visited a Beverly Hills specialist where he complained about chronic indigestion. Wendy says they tested him for his heart, made him run around and did all these tests. And ultimately he went to other doctors. They did a blood test, eventually was diagnosed with cancer. The doctor there said there's nothing it was too late. By the time they realized what it was too late. And I'm saying this as a man, right? I'm going to lecture us for a minute. We as men are terrible about taking care of ourselves. I mean, that's just the reality. We hate going to the doctor. I hate going to the doctor. You heard me talk about this recently. Okay. But we got to go to the doctor. If he had caught it earlier, who knows? Would he still be alive? Maybe. I don't know. But obviously, the sooner you catch something like cancer, the better. And they caught it too late. And she says, Ronnie was busy. He didn't want to take a break. That's the excuses we all, I'm too busy. I don't have time to go to the doctor. Okay. We all do that. You can't do that. Wendy says, this doctor there said, this is at the Mayo Clinic. This doctor there said, there's nothing we can do for you. You should just go home and get your stuff in order. It was horrible. We went back to the hotel and cried our eyes out. And then I got a text saying we had an appointment at MD Anderson. It's another hospital, obviously. He had gotten a late assist from Tony Martell of the TJ Martell Foundation, who helped secure an appointment at the Texas facility. This time, Dio received a more optimistic prognosis and a treatment plan was put in place. That helped extend his life, but unfortunately did not cure the cancer. Dio eventually lapsed into a coma and died on May 16th, 2010. That's been almost 15 years, 14 and a half years ago. So what's the moral to the story? Men especially, go to the doctor, get your checkups, do all those things that you need to do. Because the earlier you catch these things, the better. I was listening on Classic Guitar Rock Radio this morning. Children of the Sea came on, one of my favorite Dio tunes. What a talent. I still miss him. And yeah, you got to take care of ourselves, guys. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking about this new book from Alex Van Halen called Brothers. It's a kind of a tribute. It's a autobiography / tribute to Eddie. I haven't read it yet, but it's not just about Eddie, but obviously Eddie's a huge part of it. It's and what's compelling about it is Alex has always been the most private of the Van Halen personalities, right? So it's cool to have a book, and overwhelmingly the reviews have been very positive. People love reading it. I saw a thing with Valerie Bertinelli talking about it, and she got emotional. And anyways, everything I've heard about the book is great. But hang on just a sec, because it's not so great to at least one dude. John Watkins is a veteran roadie who worked with Van Halen. And he recently, last week, took to Facebook to share his thoughts on Alex Van Halen's new memoir, Brothers. In a candid post, Watkins criticized the way Alex portrayed his relationship with his former drum tech, Greg Emerson, claiming that Alex was far more abusive toward Emerson than the book suggests. Okay. I don't know Alex. I don't know Eddie, but I will tell you this. I've heard a few stories about both of the brothers being a-holes. I mean, I'm just saying, I've just heard it. I don't know that. Quote, Greg Big G Emerson was Alex Van Halen's drum tech. They had been friends since their high school days in Pasadena. Together, they went through the early years from backyard parties to becoming rock stars during the David Lee Roth era. He goes on to describe his friendship with Greg, noting that he found him to be, quote, not only a really nice guy, but also a consummate professional. Watkins says Greg was always professional and reliable, ensuring that Alex's drum kit was in top shape. However, while the other band members treated their crew with respect, Alex reportedly ridiculed Greg regularly. Watkins also emphasized that Alex's behavior worsened when he was drunk, which was often. I've heard that. Alex drank a lot. Saying, Al thought he was funny, but he was just a bully. End quote. It goes on. Al's behavior was visible to the crew, and they would wonder, these guys used to be friends, right? Meanwhile, Greg was completely devoted to his job, always loyal to the band and willing to go above and beyond. His duties included having a dozen 24-ounce cans of Schlitz malt liquor ready for Alex's arrival. Well, there's the problem right there. And even taking care of his, quote, piss jar Alex used during shows so he wouldn't have to leave the stage. Who knew that Alex was up there taking a leak during the show? Fascinating. As the years passed, Watkins said Alex's behavior toward Greg became more abusive. Quote, Greg became the personal whipping boy for Alex. Despite this, Greg remained the consummate professional, enduring the mistreatment. Some nights, Greg would return to the bus looking like a scared puppy who had been kicked and terrorized. He finishes with this. The last time I saw Greg Emerson, he looked like a defeated and broken man. This was after he was fired at some point. It doesn't go into details. He closes his post talking about Alex. He says, he was a horrible human being when I worked for him. And the way he lies about his one-time friend and employee, Greg Emerson, shows he's still a horrible human being. Wow. I don't know. I wasn't there. Just as a journalist, we need to talk about this. I told you guys, no happy news today. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please shoot me an email, classicguitarrock@mail.com. If you haven't yet, tune into Classic Guitar Rock Radio. You can find that and the podcast, everything you need at classicguitarrock.com. We'll do it all again later. Take care, guys. Live